What is up, folks? We're here to talk about WWE in 2019. Was WWE in 2019 really that bad? A lot of people widely regard this year as the worst year in WWE history. A lot of times they repeat like the same five things that most people have already said. They talk about the Bobby Lashley Lana storyline. I'm going to be straight up. So, I was a hardcore WWE fan. I started watching wrestling. I first heard of wrestling around 2005. I started watching it around 2006. Became a full time like locked in fan in 2009. But by so from like 2009 to like late 2018 or so, around SummerSlam, I was a big wrestling fan. And then life kind of happened towards the later end of 2018, like after Roman announced his cancer. I kind of got out of it for a little bit. I still kept up with all the clips news. I even watched the 2019 Rumble. But and then February 2019 I got my license. I kind of just thought wrestling was just going downhill, but going back and watching it, was 2019 as bad as I remember? So WrestleMania 35, I remember talking about it with a coworker at work and about Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins' match. I remember him saying that Seth Rollins was going to beat Brock at WrestleMania. And I remember watching Raw the next night after WrestleMania 35. That's when Seth Rollins and Kofi were in the ring together. I remember at the time just thinking, like, what has wrestling become? Like, honestly, what has wrestling become? Like, I wasn't a big fan of the Kofi Mania thing at the time, really. But, that's what was going on. I thought the Chamber was cool. The Rumble 2019, I remember being so disappointed because Cena was supposed to be in it, but then Braun Strowman was Cena's replacement, which was weird. But yeah, WrestleMania 35 was a pretty good WrestleMania. I remember Batista coming back in 2019, but I was like, man, it's too late, man. If this would have happened in like 2016, I would have been a lot more excited. But it's 2019 now. That was such a bare bones feud. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you straight up, 2019 was not that bad of a year. When I go back and watch it compared to 2026 WWE, 2019 was not a bad year, and I will stand on that. Bobby Lashley was dope that year. That wasn't his prime. It was 2021, but Bobby Lashley's entrance was so cool. Like that WrestleMania entrance was awesome when he faced Finn Balor. Demon Balor's lit, man. 2019 was not bad. There was a lot of good things. The Elimination Chamber in 2019 was stacked. You had Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy, who was it? Kofi, Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Randy Orton. It was a very stacked Elimination Chamber match that Daniel Bryan ended up winning, and Kofi Kingston was kind of the underdog who replaced Mustafa Ali. But I remember watching Raw the next night after WrestleMania, and I was like, yeah, this shit's kind of garbage. But I remember a lot of things going on around 2019. The Survivor Series thing was a big moment. I remember people were talking about Keith Lee was going to be a big star. Whenever how he had that great showing against Roman Reigns. They did the Raw SmackDown NXT angle at what was it, Survivor Series. The Fiend made his debut in 2019, and it's crazy they never gave us Demon Balor versus the Fiend. That at SummerSlam 2017 we got Demon Balor versus Bray Wyatt. SummerSlam 2019 we get regular Finn Balor versus the Fiend. The Fiend's debut was cool. I remember they had a segment with him and Kane. They were trying to submit him as like the next, WWE demon or whatever. The Fiend was cool. WWE, we got WWE 2K20, which a lot of people think was an abomination. It kind of was, but I've been going back and playing it recently. WWE 2K20, man, that we ended up having to use that game to hold us down for 2.5 years before we got 2K22. It was so bad to most people, the glitches and stuff. Not only did they have to cancel 2K21, they even had to delay 2K22. So yeah, that's kind of wild. But yeah, 2019, very good year in my opinion. Not even that bad. Seth Rollins beats Brock Lesnar clean twice that year. Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley had a pretty cool feud that year. I thought it was very physical. Two big dudes going at it, two big bulls. They had that weird storyline with Lana Rusev and Bobby Lashley. I honest to God, still to this day, think Lana and Lashley were like for real in that storyline. Like I would not be surprised. Even hearing Lashley interview, it sounds like he was feeling it for real. But yeah, I don't know. Charlotte Trish Stratus at SummerSlam 2019, they had a good match. I remember being pissed at Money in the Bank when Brock Lesnar runs at the end and just wins, and then he started that party Brock party shit. And yeah, Undertaker had some of his last full time matches in 2019. He had the awful match against Goldberg at Super Showdown, and then he had that great tag match with Roman versus Shane McMahon and Drew, which was pretty cool at Extreme Rules. Goldberg and Ziggler at SummerSlam. 2019 was not a bad year. I liked Samoa Joe a lot, and it's crazy to think Samoa Joe only had a 3-year run on the main roster. Samoa Joe was such a good heel. I liked his matches with Ray. It was cool. He was a good United States champion. This was Ray's like first year being back like full time. He returned at the 2018 Rumble, but we only seen him at the Rumble, the Greatest Royal Rumble. Didn't come back full time till what was it, October 2018 around Crown Jewel for that Best in the World tournament. But yeah, I remember me and my cousin watching the Royal Rumble 2019 because I've never missed a Royal Rumble since I started watching. Seth Rollins won. I was like, okay, cool. I guess it's going to be the year of Seth Rollins is kind of what they're leaning towards. He eliminates Braun Strowman last. Kurt Angle, this was his last year. He looked very weak and fragile. That final few, there was a lot of Baron Corbin. He had a good theme song, but come on, man. I liked Baron Corbin when he had the hair. He was pretty cool. But yeah, that come on, Kurt Angle looked weak. Even in the Royal Rumble, like they had him come out and he got eliminated so fast. But you had Fastlane, Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens. It was a pretty decent match. Did they end up adding someone to that? I really cannot remember. But the Shield, Dean Ambrose left WWE in 2019. This was his final year. They had a pretty decent match at Fastlane again. It was the Shield versus Bobby Lashley, Drew, and Corbin. They looked like 3 stars, honestly. But yeah, WrestleMania was pretty good that year too. And then trying to think of every pay per view. There was Crown Jewel. You had the Seth and the Fiend feud, which that awful Hell in a Cell ending that everyone knows about. That was just absolutely horrible. I don't know what they were thinking. 2019 was like a year that felt different. There was, SmackDown on Fox. You had the infamous Kofi Kingston squash match with Lesnar. Um, yeah, there was just a lot. NXT was really involved. There was a lot of new wrestlers like Ricochet on the main roster this year in 2019. Overall, I really enjoyed watching 2019 WWE. I could watch it any day over 2026 WWE, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to make more videos on 2019 WWE. I'm thinking about doing like a yearly review series where I review each year and I talk about it for like over an hour. That would be kind of cool. I would really like that. But 2019 was a year like I was kind of getting my license. I remember I wasn't really keeping up with it, watching every week in 2019. I was kind of keeping up with the clips and stuff. I remember driving around and I seen somebody watching Stomping Grounds 2019 on their TV. 2019 was the year I got my license, so yeah, that was pretty cool to see. Stomping Grounds. Kofi had his feuds this year. He had one with Ziggler, Samoa Joe, Randy Orton. Yeah, they had just. It was a very different year. They had that. What was it? Team Flair, Team Hogan at Survivor Series. Oh no, it was at Crown Jewel. My bad, my fault. But yeah, it was a very just different year. Like it had its own personality. It was a lot different from 2018. I personally would say 2019 is probably a better year than 2018. I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the 2018 year in WWE for some reason. Not exactly sure why. I just wasn't. Gunther as Walter had a couple matches in 2019. I had one against Seth Rollins, one at Survivor Series. What was we had? Was it TLC 2019? Daniel Bryan. Who did he face? AJ. That was an okay match. Their feud wasn't as good as what we thought it would be. No, no. That was 2018, 2019 Rumble that they had that match. 2019 Rumble, yeah, it wasn't that great. Brock and Finn Balor had a match, which was pretty cool. It just wasn't believable that Finn could beat Brock. And I've been saying that for a while. That Finn Balor's a world champion if he's booked correctly. I used to hate on Finn Balor. I had a video mocking his entrance back in 2016 when I was like 15, 16 years old. But yeah, I'll take 2019 WWE any day over what we're seeing now. I think this is the year that Shorty G started. You had Lars Sullivan. He had his anxiety issues. That's why he didn't work out. in WWE. Attacked Kurt Angle after WrestleMania. Making sure I'm not forgetting nothing. There was just so much stuff that went down in 2019. It's impossible to cover every single bit of it, but I think it was a pretty fun year. I was invested for a large part of the year. Like there were still things to talk about, things to look forward to back then in 2019. There's not a lot of that now in 2026. Maybe I should watch more stuff now, but like it's really hard to get into. It really is. But yeah, they should have gave us Demon versus Fiend at SummerSlam. That would have been pretty cool to see. And I just know there's something I'm forgetting. There's all kinds of stuff that went down in WWE in 2019. I think CM Punk joined the backstage thing, and we thought he was going to make a return, but he never did. Uh, yeah. I remember being marked out for that Elimination Chamber match. It was star studded. I remember that promo on SmackDown from 2019 where Samoa Joe just cooked everybody in the ring on the build up to the Elimination Chamber. AJ and Orton finally had a meaningful feud at the start of 2019. It was at WrestleMania. They had some good promos. I think they had a match in like February 2017 or March or some shit where Orton won with an RKO. What was it? To retain his Royal Rumble spot. I can't remember. It was like 2017, but this was their first feud in 2019. That was going on. Goldberg had two. He had a better match against Ziggler and Undertaker. They did not work well together. Undertaker had a better match without Goldberg too this year. But yeah, some people just had a down year. Some people feel like Kevin Owens had a down year. I didn't really care for the Shane McMahon and Miz feud. Shane McMahon didn't he like leave for a while at least until that 2020? No, he left until was it 2020 when he started the Raw Underground? I don't know, but yeah, I was just very tuned out. But there was a lot of stuff I did pay attention to in 2019. Clash of Champions, Hell in a Cell. I'm trying to think of every pay per view to make sure I'm not forgetting one because I always end up forgetting one. But Bobby Lashley was dope in 2019. Not a lot of people talk about the work that he was doing. He had some good matches against Braun Strowman and Finn Balor. He just looked like an absolute machine. Like even when his WrestleMania entrance, he looked like a machine. People don't talk about that enough. The women's wrestlers, it was kind of a what every year. You had Becky Lynch win at WrestleMania against Charlotte and Ronda. You had a few matches. Didn't Alexa Bliss? She feuded with a few. She was pretty prominent. It all leaves my mind once I hit record, but yeah, she was pretty prominent. Who was feuding for the SmackDown Women's title? They're probably doing some multi shit. I know Bayley turns heel in 2019, and the Fox era on SmackDown began. Um, yeah, a lot of people was pissed off when they added Charlotte to that triple threat. I remember that video was like so disliked. They wanted to just see Becky and Ronda go at it. And didn't Charlotte and Becky face, what was it, at Fastlane 1-on-1 or was it Chamber? It might have been Fastlane. I'm pretty sure it was. Bray Wyatt, did he miss like he was like gone to like SummerSlam when he came back as the Fiend or something. I don't really remember seeing Bray Wyatt all that much. The Iconics, they kind of started in, that year on the main roster. I remember Billie Kay. I first seen her in like 2016 or 17. It was like she was like a local talent in a SmackDown match before. You had Mandy Rose. She was on the main roster that year. She was in a team with Sonya Deville. What was it, Paige? They had something going on. The Riot Squad. Well, they really started in like 2017 or 18. But yeah. I remember I watched Royal Rumble. I missed a lot of shows in 2019, like live. I caught all the clips. But it, the first half of 2019, I was working at Sonic, and yeah, I wanted to see Drew win the Royal Rumble in 2019. Seth won, but then Drew ends up winning it a year later. I remember everyone wanted to see him win in 2019. But then a year later, Drew finally won, and he got his moment, even though WrestleMania wasn't in front of a crowd or whatever. But that's to be expected when you have a global pandemic. But Brock Lesnar was kind of annoying in 2019. I mean, other than putting over Seth Rollins twice, like I hated that And didn't he end up cashing in on Seth? You had a cool that was a cool match at Extreme Rules 2019. It was Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. I thought that was hilarious. That match. Go back and watch that. That was so entertaining. That whole match, that whole feud was just fuck. It was just hilarious. I thought it really was. But guys, what is your thoughts on 2019? I'm gonna make more videos talking about it. Can't cover everything in one, but let me know what you thought. I thought it was an underrated year. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I remember that storyline, Kurt Hawkins, how he ended. Didn't he end his losing streak? He was in a team with Zack Ryder. He ended the losing streak at WrestleMania or something. Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty funny storyline. Trying to think of anything else I don't want to leave out from 2019. You know, the year started, okay. Roman came back very quickly from the cancer, and he had that match against Drew at Mania. That was quick. How fast he came back. I remember being shocked, and I wondered if the fans would cheer him when he came back. They cheered him for a while, but then they slowly started booing him again, especially by the end of the year when he started that dog food storyline with Corbin. But yeah, guys, 2019 not a bad year. Let me know your thoughts down below if you think I'm tripping. I'll take it any day over 2025, 2026 WWE, what we're seeing now. Let me know what you think 2019 WWE down below. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe and peace.